Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises to manage clients and projects with max efficiency, sharing Wix's SEO tech to help you drive growth.
Fix errors, waste, and issues in a couple of clicks. Get alerted whenever you're off track. Sign up at trueclicks.com.
Hello, so I'm Jo, as Becky's very nicely introduced, and today I want to talk to you about ways to maximize the extent to which you can meet search intent, all without compromising on your brand tone of voice guidelines, as well as adherence to any industry regulations that you might have to adhere to in your content. I also want to showcase how I've started to do this, leveraging a few different AI tools, which has helped me to ensure both efficiency and effectiveness throughout the content creation and optimization processes. But before I do so, I'd first like to introduce my agency. So I'm a copywriter for TOV, which is a performance-driven global digital media agency that's been engineered to grow ambitious brands through the smart combination of data, media, content, and technology. We also enhance our services, leveraging our very own tech-enabled suite of AI-driven tools, one of which I'll be briefly talking you through today, and all of which have been inspired by real-life client challenges. So before I dive into this process, I'd first like to introduce a couple of the main concepts I'm going to be talking about throughout. So where a lot of you may already know what these two concepts are, but just for those of you who don't, when I'm talking about search intent, I'm talking about the reasons why people are searching for what they're searching for, which can then be used as keywords and key phrases to optimize content. So search intent is typically categorized into four main groups. So there's informational, transactional, navigational, and commercial. What's also important to note is that any one keyword can have a number of possible intents behind it that are relevant to your audience that you'll likely want to hit. But I'll talk about this in more depth later on in the talk. And then when I'm talking about tone of voice, I'm talking about the brand tone of voice. So the way in which a business communicates to its audience through its content. So tone of voices are typically built up of the choice of words that the business decides to use in its writing style, as well as the overall tone that's embedded within its content. So tone of voice can be formal, casual, friendly, fun, essentially whatever the business is looking to reflect about itself to its audience. So this is a topic that's very much involved within my day-to-day role. So as an SEO-focused content writer, some of my main priorities are creating content that's optimized, valuable, and sounds like the business has written out themselves. But funnily enough, some of the main challenges that can come from the SEO content creation processes aren't always necessarily the writing part itself. It can also include deciphering all the relevant intent behind the keywords clients are looking to hit, and then making sure the topics within these intents actually align with the brand's tone of voice guidelines, as well as adhere to any industry regulations you might have around what you can and can't say. So these AI-driven tactics I'm going to take you through may genuinely help you to increase the efficiency and effectiveness through which you guys undergo your SEO content creation processes, and may help you to make sure that no feasible intents that you could realistically meet in your content that are relevant to your audience end up falling through the gaps. So why is search intent so important in the first place? So search intent is crucial for several key reasons. Firstly, it can help to attract a range of possible visitors at different stages of the funnel, which can then help you to reach a wider variety of audiences. So from those who are already looking to convert to those who are only really just figuring out about the types of products and services that you offer. But then meeting search intent can not only help you to attract a wider variety of audiences, it can also help you to get noticed in a more favorable way. So by actually answering the questions that users are searching for when they're searching these key terms, and doing this in the most kind of accurate and useful way you possibly can, you can elevate your content as a trustworthy and authoritative source of information on the web. And then meeting search intent can also help to reveal new opportunities. So by actually taking the time to understand all the relevant intents behind the keywords you're looking to hit, you can then better understand the wider context of why these keywords are searched for in the first place, which can then help you to unearth any content gaps you might have on your website, as well as reveal any new keyword opportunities that you might not have initially thought of beforehand. And ultimately, all this can then go to help improve SEO. So by making the content as relevant to users as you possibly can, you can then enhance user experience and user satisfaction, all of which then helps to elevate your content as a useful source of information on the web, which then all can bleed into key ranking factors for Google. So all this seems great and simple and straightforward enough. So why don't we end up meeting search intent some of the time? So firstly, it's complicated. Search intent isn't always a simple thing to decipher. There can be any number of possible intents behind just one keyword. So if you're looking to decipher all the relevant intent for a long list of keywords for a variety of different pages, this can require a lot of in-depth analysis and brain power. And then off the back of this, some keywords can be inherently ambiguous and vague, and it's not always completely clear-cut the reasons why some people may be searching for your keywords. But still, nonetheless, a lot of people end up making educated guesses around what they think these intents are, not all of which, unfortunately, are correct. And then even when the intents behind keywords are understood, meeting these intents in the precise format, tone, depth, and quality that they can often require might prove challenging for a brand's tone of voice, as well as any industry regulations they might have to adhere to around what they can and can't say. And then lastly, especially for smaller organizations, there may be limited time to create all this content while tackling all the challenges that I've just explored, and doing this for a number of pages in a comprehensive and thorough way. So how can we better clarify search intent, all while keeping within the brand tone of voice guidelines, any industry regulations, as well as the limited amount of time we may often have to work on projects like this? So I've created this 3-step process in which to enhance the ways in which I'm meeting search intent within my content. I'll go through the intricacies of each of these 3 main processes next, but just to give you a brief overview, as you can see, these include step 1, identifying search intent, step 2, aligning these intents with brand tone of voice and industry regulations, and step 3, reviewing the results from step 2 and using these to optimize my content. Just to note, while I'm talking through this whole process, I'll also be using the example of a fashion business that's looking to hit the keyword sustainable fashion. So step 1 is obviously identifying search intent. So there are a number of more manual ways people can go about assessing search intents that can be sped up and enhanced using AI. So one of the more manual ways to do this may be to look at the top ranking competitor content for your chosen keyword, reading this content and seeing where it relates to said keyword, and then using this to draw conclusions around what you think the possible intents could be. So there are a couple ways you can enhance this process. One of which is by using Ahrefs' AI-driven tool, Identify Intents. So if you have an Ahrefs account, just go to the Keyword Explorer section, type in and search for your chosen keyword, scroll down to the SERP overview, and in the top right-hand corner, you'll see this Identify Intents feature. And what this does is use AI to analyze the SERPs to assess the reasons why people could be searching for your chosen keyword. As you can see, when you click this, it comes up with a list of nice intents, as well as links to competitor content that it thinks is meeting these intents. And another way you can enhance this more manual process of assessing intent is by taking the SERPs for your chosen keyword and getting ChatGPT to identify the possible search intents that relate to this keyword in competitor content. So as you can see on the screen, I've just prompted ChatGPT by saying, identify the search intents that are relevant to the keyword sustainable fashion in the following content. And then what I've done is copied and pasted the content from just one of the top ranking results pages. And what it's done is provided a list of intents that I can then explore. You can then repeat this process with all the top ranking pages that you think are relevant to your keyword. And what you should end up with is a nice long list of intents that you can review, picking out the ones that you know are relevant to your audience and removing the ones that you know are absolutely not. So these are just a couple of ways you can enhance and speed up this process of assessing search intent. But what's more, they might be able to help you lost my train of thought there. Anyway, I'll go to the next slide. So at my agency, we've also started to elevate the ways in which we're identifying search intent using our intent mining tool. So what this tool does, it utilizes AI that's been specifically trained to analyze and generate the reasons why people are searching for what they're searching for. So how we use this tool, we use it to draw out the possible intents for keywords for specific audiences. And how intent mining does this is it's been trained on a large amount of data that's been specifically curated to enhance our understanding of search intent and the nuances that surround this. It's also been developed by SEO professionals in our agency. So once you've got your list of intent, so I've just pulled up on the screen a couple of the showcase an example of how this intent mining tool works. So I've gone to my intent mining tool and I've asked it to draw out the possible intents for the keyword sustainable fashion for my specific audiences. And here's just a nice long list of the possible intents that is drawn up from this. So once you've got your list of possible intents, you can then move on to the next step of the process, which is to align these intents with tone of voice and any industry regulations. So for this, you'll need to create a virtual tone of voice editor, which I'll now show you how to do using ChatGPT. And what we'll do is build up this editor to be specifically pre-configured on any tone of voice guidelines and industry regulations that you need to adhere to in your content. So this process honestly shouldn't take up that much of your time, especially if you already have established tone of voice guidelines. And once created, can help you to onboard and train your SEOs and writers on the voice of your brand. And then more importantly for this talk, it can help you to establish which the intent from our initial list we can feasibly meet in our content. So I'll now show you how to create one of these virtual tone of voice editors. So for this, you will need ChatGPT Plus. So once you're all logged in, just go to the Explore GPT section on the left-hand column, then click on the plus create button in the top right-hand corner, and it'll take you to this edit section for your new custom GPT. And it's here we'll be feeding it all the information and instructions that you'll need to build up your virtual tone of voice editor as a custom GPT. So I'll take you through the process step by step now. So let's start by giving it a name. I've very unimaginatively called it the Fashion Client Editor. And then let's give it a description. So this section doesn't necessarily help the GPT in processing or responding to queries. But if you are looking to share this tool either internally within your business, externally to any clients or to any other relevant people, it can help to provide a clear and concise description of exactly what the tool is, what it does, as well as any useful prompt instructions. And then we need to upload the knowledge section. So it's here we're going to upload all the tone of voice guidelines, industry regulation information, and anything else you think is relevant to include when reviewing content and content ideas. So one thing I always like to include is examples of client content that exemplify the brand's tone of voice and how you're wanting content to sound moving forward. Another useful thing to do is unclick web browsing from the GPT's capabilities, as this can help the tool to draw more so on the information from your knowledge section as opposed to your knowledge section and the web. And then even if you don't have any tone of voice guidelines, you can quickly create a brief summary of these using ChatGPT. So simply upload your examples of client content that exemplify the brand's tone of voice and prompt it by saying something like, review the attached examples of client content and provide a comprehensive overview of its tone of voice. This should include information on its spelling preferences, how formal or casual the language is that it uses, and how it interacts with its audience. And then what it should do is provide its own interpretation of what it thinks your tone of voice is, pulling on your examples of client content and what you've prompted it with. You can then review its interpretation, tweak it where you think is necessary, pop it into a Word doc, and then upload this to the knowledge section of your custom GPT. And then the final step in creating this virtual tone of voice editor is the instructions. So this is a pretty crucial section of creating this custom GPT, as it's where we'll be providing all of the, where we'll be telling the tool precisely what we're wanting it to do. So when adding in these instructions, there are a couple of things I like to include. So first is the objective. So essentially the main goal of the tool and what I'm wanting it to achieve. So in this example, I've said that its objective is to provide feedback on content and content ideas and flag anything that doesn't align with the guidance provided in the knowledge section. I've also asked it to draw on the examples of client content for insights to inform its review and feedback. And then another thing I like to include is how I want it to respond. So while this may seem minimal, I've noticed a few times that, especially when creating these custom GPTs, that the GPT likes to waffle on and provide real dense essay-based responses. So I always like to make sure that I include a request to get it to respond in clear and concise, organized and to the point bullet points. So once you have filled out your instructions, simply click create on the top right-hand corner, and you'll have created your virtual tone of voice editor, which we can now use to review those intents that we generated earlier on and see where they align with tone of voice and industry regulations. So I'll just show you an example of how this works. So I've pulled out, for this example, the intent mining tool unearthed earlier on. So I've gone to my virtual tone of voice editor and I've prompted it by saying, do the following search intents, meet the fashion client's tone of voice and align with industry regulations. If not, flag where these intents are not in keeping with this guidance. And then I've just popped in all of the intents. And then what it's done is assessed where these intents are aligning with the guidance provided in the knowledge section, where they're not, as well as any areas to flag when addressing certain intents within my content. So I've just pulled up a couple of the intents the tone of voice editor flagged, saying that these both could feasibly meet tone of voice guidelines, but it's also highlighted areas that I need to remain cautious of when addressing these possibly more contentious intents within my content. And then if you want the tool to specify further, you can just prompt it to do so. So that's exactly what I've done. So I've told it to tell me the specific regulations I need to keep in mind when addressing these two intents, two from the last slide. And it's given me the specific instruction, the specific regulations that I need to keep in mind when addressing those two intents. So I'm by no means saying that this virtual tone of voice editor should have the final say on whether any of your content or content ideas adhere to industry regulations, but it can be a fantastic starting off point on which to create approval-worthy and on-brand content. And then especially if your content has to go through brand and legal reviews, it can help streamline this review process. And then once you've got your final list of intents, removing the ones that the tone of voice editor has flagged that you can't use and highlighting the areas to remain cautious of for the ones that you can then move on to the next step and the final step, which is planning out the content to meet these intents or optimizing the content. So if you're optimizing content that already exists on your site, you can just review this content, check this already meeting some of the intents, and add in sections where you think that it's not. And then if you're creating new content, you can plan your content to meet these intents, optimizing your writing from the very get-go. So that is my talk. If any of you have any questions about the process that I've just taken you through, anything about the TOG's tools or TOG services, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And thank you, BrightonSEO, very much for having me.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.
Demand Sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.